Alright, what is up guys? We are doing a brand new deck profile today for Phantasm Spirals. This is the best budget deck in the game, pound for pound. I know you're seeing a lot of like URs in the extra deck. None of these are necessary. You can literally play a bunch of the cheapest URs you could possibly imagine can be played in this deck instead of what's here. I never use the extra deck in any of the replays. I don't think I've ever gone into the extra deck in this deck. Maybe one time ever I made Stealth Kraken to finish a game with two Megalo Smashers, but that's it. You do not use the extra deck whatsoever. There is a new card, finally new support for this archetype. We've got Apophis, the Swamp Deity. This card is absolutely insane in the deck. Basically what it does is during the main phase it lets you special summon it as a normal monster. It's 2000 attack, 2200 defense. And this card is still treated as a trap, but importantly, it's treated as a normal monster, which means it triggers the field spell, our Phantasm Spiral field spell, the Pacifist City, and also it can negate cards on the field up to the number of continuous traps that you have on the field. And that effect does not target, and yeah, it can negate things in response to an activation. So like, let's say for example your opponent activates Branded Fusion, you can chain this, and if you have another face up continuous trap card, you special summon this monster and then you negate the Branded Fusion. So it can even stop things like Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster. It can get over monsters that can't be destroyed by card effects, can't be destroyed by battle, stuff like that. It can get over those big monsters that you can have trouble, things that can't be destroyed by battle or can't be targeted, something like I don't know, like a Chaos Max Dragon, for example. Something that this deck has always struggled with is getting rid of monsters that have like towers effects. This can actually out those monsters, which is really cool. This card is outrageously good, and it doubles as essentially, like I said, a Solemn Judgment, because it can negate the activation of a card effect. And you can even do, depending on the chaining, you can, for example, activate, like let's say your opponent activates Lightning Storm, you activate Apophis, and then Chainlink 2 you can activate, doesn't matter, like Rivalry or Goes in Match or Skill Drain or Macrocosmos. So you basically, the Skill Drain will resolve, and then afterwards the Apophis will resolve, and it'll summon onto the board, and you can negate your opponent's Harpy's Feather Duster. This card is outrageously good support for this deck. But let's get to the deck profile. Like I said, extra deck I'm not even going to go through. It doesn't matter. You can literally play whatever you want. Main deck is actually important. So right here we've got the Megalo Smasher. He's a very important card. We only play 2 because he's super searchable with Fish Sonar and super easy to get. And honestly, you never really want to see him in your opening hand. Like, you never want to see more than one of this card in your opening hand. So we play like 5 copies essentially, because we've got 2 Megalo Smashers and then 3 Fish Sonars. You never want more than one because you can only ever summon one from your hand. We are playing Card of Demise just because they kind of have hit some of the pots a little too aggressively lately. So they hit Pot of Extravagance, they hit Pot of Prosperity, so we're playing 2 of this just to make up for the difference. You don't special summon a lot on your turn. You mostly special summon on your opponent's turn with the field spell and the Apophis. You basically summon during your opponent's turn, so you can Card of Demise. It's not even an issue. Pot of Duality, because again, special summoning doesn't matter. 2 Extravagance, I'd play 3 if I could. Prosperity, again, I'd play 3 if I could, but I can't. Fish Sonar is our search spell. It gets us to Megalo Smasher, and if you have Umi on the field, which this counts as Umi, you basically can special summon an additional Megalo Smasher, which is pretty cool. It can help you OTK sometimes. 3 of the Heart and Soul of the deck, which is the Pacifist City. I would explain it, but honestly, just watch the replays that I'll show afterwards. It'll explain it better. 1 Torrential Tribute. 3 of the Battle. This is very important. Battle is just a very good card. It lets you pop at any given time during your opponent's turn, during your turn. It's freely searchable. This is like a searchable Imperm, not quite as good as Imperm, but still pretty good. Metaverse, we've got 2 of these. I might bump this up to 3, but sometimes this deck is weird. Like, sometimes you don't open any field spells, and sometimes you open like way too many copies of the field spell, and it's one of the real rough parts of the deck. But it does suck that we lost Terraforming because of tier limits, and we're probably never getting it back. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Again, this is optional. You can just play any other counter trap, any other floodgate. You can replace it with Summon Limit. You can replace this with so many cheaper cards. But I do find that this is actually kind of a helpful card. But again, you literally could replace this with Summon Limit and it wouldn't change anything. Especially since most people aren't even main decking things like Harpy's Feather Duster. You wouldn't even like need to play this. Basically, this area right here, the Judgments, the Strikes, you can replace these with You can replace this with any good trap cards and it'll work out. And then we play one of every one of the Floodgates, which is we play Goes in Match at 1, Skill Drain at 1, Rivalry at 1, Goes in Match, like I said. We play 3 copies of Macrocosmos. It's really good against the metagame. Good against everything except for Kashtira. 3 Sea Stealth attacks, because this basically, this plus the field spell is basically an auto win against most decks, because they can't out the field spell and they also can't out the monster, so it just creates this endless loop. 2 there can only be 1 because it's limited to 2. And obviously Apophis, the new card. This card is outrageous in this deck. It probably is actually outrageous in Eldritch, if we're being honest, because Eldritch also uses continuous trap cards, but Eldritch is in a little bit of a tight spot in the metagame right now. But this card is outrageously, it like fills so many roles. It's a monster that's a normal monster. It summons itself. It puts a monster on board, and also it negates cards, and it doesn't target. Like I said, extra deck literally doesn't matter. You can play anything you want to. It can be any extra deck monster. You can play this if you wanted to. Honest, like straight up, you can play this. You can play any extra deck card. It does not matter. Let's get to the replays where, you know, things make sense. All right, in this first replay, we are going, I believe, second, and our opponent is on Dragon Link. Now I'm going to kind of speed through the Dragon Link combo. If you want to see a Dragon Link combo, there's plenty on YouTube. You can go watch them. But he's going to go through the basic Dragon Link combo, because he's going to start with Safer, and then he's going to search out the Black Collapse Serpent, and he's going to go through the full combo. Now, as you can see here, I don't actually play any hand traps in this deck, and the reason for that is because I like to just, even if I'm going second, I like to just set 5 pass, because set 5 pass is better than playing hand traps for these particular decks, because you have to remember, your opponent is devoting cards like Call by the Grave and Crossout Designator and Ash to counter things like Max C, and then they're also playing all of those things to counter all of the other hand traps. Imperm. The natural benefit of this deck is that none of those hand traps do a single thing against this deck. They don't matter, with the exception of Ash. Sometimes it hurts, but for the most part, none of the hand traps do a single thing that matters against this deck, which is really awesome, and it gives this deck a huge advantage of not having to play the hand traps. So Call by the Grave is just an absolutely dead card. In addition to, I like to set 5 pass. So now we get to our turn. As you can see here, they've got Borrel which is actually usually a pretty hard to out for this deck, because it can't be destroyed by battle card effects, can't be targeted with monster effects. And then Borreload Savage is obviously a negate, and it has 2 counters on it, so he gets 2 negates, one during our turn, one during his turn, and then you know, obviously he has 2 cards in hand, so those could be hand traps. We're going to search, summon the Megala Smasher, activate the card of Demise. He's going to Ash. Very intelligent that he did Ash that. Obviously we wanted to draw. I was trying to bait out the Borreload Savage so it had less negates, and we're just going to pass here. Now honestly, I could have just left that if I wanted to in my hand, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Now here we're going to target the Borreload Savage Dragon to pop it, chain Skill Drain. He's going to chain the Borrel to negate his own Borreload Savage Dragon, and then special summon a monster from the graveyard, which again is pretty smart. But once Skill Drain's on board, this deck just becomes very difficult to deal with. We do have some good stuff. He's going to summon the Absterrouter, and I don't want to trigger the Torrential Tribute just yet, because I was hoping he would normal summon something, but he doesn't. He just goes to battle phase and attacks. So I'm like, okay, that's not the end of the world. We've still got plenty of plays. As long as he summons anything, we literally just out his board for free, so it doesn't even matter. What he should have done is just, the way to beat this deck is just keep attacking, but he's going to go ahead and special summon with a Torrential Tribute. He's going to trigger his effect, which is going to allow us to trigger our field spell, and we have the ultimate lock here. Like, it is impossible to beat us at this point. We have the token on board, we have Sea Stealth attack, and we have Skill Drain. It is almost impossible to get out of this board. Obviously, there are outs like Cosmic Cyclone and Kaijus and stuff like that, but I mean, those are extremely specific cards. Now right here, he's going to attack with Fenrir, and he's going to activate the effect to banish our monster, which he's going to activate now. So I don't want him to, because he activated this effect, I don't want my Sea Stealth attack to trigger, because if Sea Stealth triggers and destroys his Fenrir, Fenrir goes to graveyard, and basically, since it's no longer on field, it'll resolve even though Skill Drain's on the field. So because I didn't want that, I just banished my own monster, and since he activated the effect, it doesn't even matter, because our monster got banished. His is going to get negated because it's still on field, and we're just going to get another token, and he's going to re-attack, and then he's going to destroy his monster. I don't think he actually meant to play around that. I think he just kind of got lucky, but he almost outed my board there. accidentally. Now we're gonna go again. Again, this is what you call like the Phantasm Spiral lock. It's almost impossible to play through. Again, unless you have extremely specific cards available. Now we have the Apophysis during his, I think, main phase 2. We're gonna be able to search off of that. This is because he was headed into the end phase. Because I just want to kind of wrap this game up. I probably should have just saved it for like a Cosmic Cyclone or something like that on the off chance that he had it, but I mean, again, we're just trying to win the game here. We don't want to do this all day. It's one of the, yeah, like I said, we don't want to do this all day. We're going to activate Macrocosmos, so now his graveyard shut down. Can't activate anything. He's just going to scoop it up because at this point, I don't think it was possible for him to win. So that is the first replay. All right, next up, we've got another replay here. Sometimes you end up with games like this where you actually don't open the field spell, and those games can be a little tough to play through. But fortunately, we play so many good other cards that it doesn't even matter. Our opponent's on Kashtira. They're going to activate the Dimensional Shifter, which I used to play Dimensional Shifter in this deck, so it literally does absolutely nothing against us. And actually, I might even put the deck card back in the deck. Now, right here, I'm going to activate Sea Stealth, even though we don't have a field spell. The reason I do this is to keep the Swamp Deity alive, because obviously it requires another counter trap on the field. So I just wanted it to be ready just in case our opponent, like Harpy's Feather Duster or something like that. I just wanted to be prepared. They're going to go to battle phase, activate Evenly Matched. Fortunately, we do have the Solemn Judgment. That'll obviously negate the Evenly Matched. So we don't have to deal with that anymore. And like I said, they're on Kashtira. Everything is going to get banished from here on in. They're going to summon the Fenrir. I'm definitely going to Solemn Strike that because Fenrir just generates way too much advantage. They're going to activate 7 stars, banishing a monster. We're going to chain the Apophis to negate that because we have a counter trap, a continuous trap on the field, so we're going to be able to negate that. Our opponent's just going to end on that. They have 1 card in hand. It's probably, if I had to guess, a hand trap. Then they're going to go back to our turn. We're going to activate the Pot of Extravagance, great draw off the top, and we're going to draw into 2 more fantastic cards. Macrocosmos obviously doesn't do much against Kashtira, but I'll take a Solemn Strike. It definitely helps. They're going to switch over to their turn, and they're just going to, whatever they draw, it wasn't good enough, and that's just going to be the win. So this deck can actually still win against other decks, even when they don't have the even when you don't draw the field spell, which is kind of crazy. And I just included that replay to showcase what the Apophis can do, like how well it can negate cards. It is kind of an insane card. All right, so this is the final replay that I'm going to show. Again, it's a pretty standard hand that you've got here. We got Pot of Extravagance, Metaverse, Macrocosmos, just a bunch of purple cards, one turquoise card, and it's an okay hand. So we're going to set 5 pass. Right on on draw phase, I should say, we're going to activate the effect to get the field spell on the board. And we're going to immediately activate Macrocosmos in the standby phase. They're going to do something smart, which is they're going to chain the branded opening. That way they can resolve this effect before Macrocosmos is fully in effect, and they're going to be able to summon the Aluber. Aluber's obviously going to search. We're going to be able to get our token, which is nice for us. Now, Macrocosmos can be good against Branded, but they can play around the Macrocosmos, which is also just fine. They're going to get the Branded Fusion. We're going to be able to search to our hand the battle here. And now that we're out of the standby phase, here's the other thing too. Because we were in the standby phase, I actually couldn't use the effect of Apophis because it can only be used in the main phase. So they kind of played around our effects sort of by accident there. And then we're going to activate the Foolish Burial. But again, Foolish Burial is really not even that bad for them because even though their cards are getting banished, Tragedy activates even when banished. And on top of that, Branded Regain allows them to trigger their effect to shuffle it back to draw a card. So they're pretty good on that regard. So they're going to activate, they're going to get a free draw, and they're going to get a free search, which is like super duper awesome for them. They're going to be able to do, like I said, either one. And they do have the Branded Fusion. So now they're going to go activate Branded Fusion. We do have the Apophis. And what's cool about Apophis is, again, we have a continuous trap. We can negate any spell we want. So we're going to obviously activate, since we have one on the field, we're going to activate, negate the Branded Fusion. And because Branded Fusion at 1, he's not going to be resolving it again. And since it's banished, he has absolutely no way of getting it back. And from here on in, it's just going to be like a terrible game for him because all of the cards that play even when they're banished in Branded have already been used, so everything left needs the graveyard, and it's basically like a win from then in. So that has been the replays. I've kind of showcased how this new card is really good in the deck and how you can implement it in your deck. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching.
La 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 la